Carl's tone seems slightly annoyed there, but I don't really care enough to ask about it.
By the way, how's your project going?
Oh, I know why he's annoyed. Because Carl's still a perpetual teenager.
He's just a little jelly.
Yeah, Carl's never grown up. He does in his route, though. That's the nice part.
He does grow in his route by the end of it, yeah. I think we even talked about that, why he would get stuck because of all his trauma.
Yep.
Which kind of makes sense, but yeah. Probably will grow during this one, I kind of forget.
And I mean, there's the whole thing of like trauma, and, like dissociative stuff, like that is still very real. Just all those experiences that you have changing how you think and perceive the world. It's I actually learned about this at work. There's something called the auto default network, which essentially is that whole part of your brain that ruminates and replays memories when you're just not doing anything. So you'll be sitting there. Let's say you had an argument with someone and you are now sitting there and you're replaying that argument in your head when you're not doing anything. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that's called
exactly what
the
you're talking about.
that's called the auto default network, or the self default network. And the problem with it is that it's kind of useful in that it lets you replay these negative events, so you can sort of resolve them on your own. But it can also be bad in that it just perpetually stresses you out and brings up a negative memory. So like if you've ever heard of mindfulness, this is that literally hard counters that. So the whole thing of when you find yourself getting into that point where the auto default network is just going crazy, it's good to just take a deep breath, reground yourself, and just be like, nope, we're not talking about that right now. We are talking about this. And we're going to just pay attention to how the ground feels beneath us. We're going to focus our mind on something that's not that. And being able to do that is incredibly healthy.
That's like when it comes to meditation, some forms of meditation is just you just kind of sitting there, focusing on your breath, kind of observing, but not like kind of trying to control the thoughts that are going through your mind. So you kind of get an idea of where your mind's at. So if like that, you call it like the reminiscent thing.
Yeah, the auto default network.
Yeah, the auto default network is just towards like it's leaning into a lot of bad memories that would stress you out or irritate you. You can kind of step out of the observation mode of the meditation and be like, no, let's redirect this network into something more positive and try to get it to shift into defaulting to good memories. I don't know.
You're actually just... So your brain goes into the auto default network when it's not doing anything. So in a way, it's kind of good because it will focus on whatever is useful, and so it allows you to emotionally process stuff that happened. But it could also be bad in that if what it's trying to process is this really traumatic event that makes you angry all the time, like that's not useful. You're just angry all the time and it's making you more angry. So in that way it can be really bad. So it's just one of those things where being able to moderate that is very useful, because literally, like, we've all had those moments where we have a thought and it's just like, this thought is not good for me right now. I'm not thinking about this. And then your mind thinks about it again and you're like, no, this thought is not good for me right now. I don't want to think about this. And so you focus on something else. And then when you finish that and have nothing to do, that thought comes up again. So it's just that's just how your brain works. It's trying to reprocess that. An easy way to think about it is
Brain's defragging.
Yeah, it's trying to emotionally process stuff. And an easy way to think about it is like, let's say you were hiking and something went kind of wrong, and no one got hurt or horribly maimed or anything, but like something went wrong and it was obviously a problem. So your brain wants to focus on that to figure out what went wrong so you can fix it. The problem is that's what the default network is great at. The problem is when it is something that you find somewhat traumatic, but that was one-sided. Like, it wasn't your fault per se. Like, you didn't do anything, but this traumatic thing happened to you. So now the auto default network is focusing on that, and every single time it brings it back up, you just get kind of angry and you get stuck in this cycle where you're like dealing with that again. And then you realize that you're like, I don't want to think about this. So you go and do something else, then it comes back to it and it focuses on it again. And the thing is, you can... The problem is that when it gets stuck on that thing, if that thing is really traumatic to you, it can just essentially just be reliving the memory over and over and over. So for instance, when someone has PTSD, I think the flashbacks that they're having is the auto default network touching that memory again, them having a flashback to that event. And the problem is that the emotions that you felt during that event are also triggered by the auto default network. So
yeah, kind of like a mild PTSD.
Yeah, so if you were angry about something and it brings it back up, now you're angry again. If you were scared about something, like a really traumatic event happened that gave you PTSD, and your auto default network keeps focusing on that to try and process it, when it really can't process it, because that's trauma, you need to process it later, usually with help. The auto default network tries to process that. You freak out, you get terrified, you get anxiety attacks, like it feels like your heart is pounding, like you're having a heart attack or something, and you just want to go find the smallest place you can go hide in and hide there. Like that's the auto default network's trying to use its process to process things, but it's just not good for you. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So it's something that your brain uses to process things and to emotionally process things, but it kind of just runs when there's nothing else going on. When you don't have it, when there's nothing else being processed, it sort of starts running to process things. So what you want to do, if that is kind of being a problem, is you want to instead be mindful of yourself. That is just where you you focus on your breathing, you focus on where you are, you focus on what's around you, how things feel. Like, I'll give you a fun example. You can't really feel your shirt right now, but you can feel it now.
Before you even said it, now I can, thanks.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Like, there's so much stuff you could focus on. Like, you could literally just do that thing where you force your awareness to just, like, parts in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I can really focus on the tip of my finger, or I can focus on my elbow. And it's just like being able to push a focused sensation around your body. So, super useful. And that basically just breaks the auto default network. It takes it away from it. The real problem with it is just that it stresses you out. And when you get stuck in perpetual stress, that's not good for your brain. It's not good for you. So being able to take it away from that is super useful.
Yeah.